This is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
This is how we do it.
Hello and welcome back to This Is How I Do It. My name is IT Beast, and today we're going to start the first part on my series of OCS Inventory NG, which will be covering the main important part of the OCS Inventory NG software, which is the management server. Okay, so now we're wondering what the heck is the OCS Inventory. As explained, basically it is free software that is used to go out and collect information off of your client machines that you can in return use as a management tool in order to assess the software and hardware that your infrastructure is currently using. Alright, the system requirements for the management server for Windows is not a lot. It's also the same for Linux, so this you can be used for either or. Basic processor, Giga RAM, and the minimum Windows operating system you need is Windows XP. Yes, you can use Windows XP for this to install the management server. I would only use it on Windows XP though if it's only going to be, say, your fellow one or two fellow admins and your lead less than 10 people that are going to be accessing it. If not, then you may want to move to a Windows Server instead, which can of course accommodate more connections. But in most environments, it's usually just the IT department that cares about this kind of information. So save yourself a few bucks, just use a Windows client machine. Alright, the prerequisites needed for this lab, very simple. You need to download, of course, the management server for Windows, which I have a link for right here. You need a physical or virtual machine that meets the system requirements on the last slide I just showed you, that has a static IP. And the reason for this is because when you deploy the agents, they're going to be honing in on the fully qualified name or IP of your management server, and if that changes, then it's not going to really work too well. And the last requirement is any web browser will do to access the management server. Everything is HTML based on this. Alright, one production environment note that I need to make sure you're aware of is that the NG server for Windows, the management server, will only accommodate up to 1,500 clients. If you're going to do anything more than 1,500 clients, you have a choice. You can either start another management server, or you can go to the Unix/Linux version of the management server, which is more robust for bigger environments. So rule of thumb is if you're a small business, medium business, then the Windows version will be fine. You won't, I doubt seriously, unless major expansion happens somewhere, that you'll have to go past 1,500 clients for a small or medium business. Enterprise, you're definitely going to probably want to deploy the Unix management server instead. We will not be covering this today in this demonstration. However, I do plan down the road to cover this as well. Alright, now let's go ahead and go to the download site and download the management server for Windows. Okay, we're now on the website for OCS Inventory NG. As you can see, if you're watching this from the United States or Great Britain, it's all French. That's because the people who make this that's right, they're from France. So in order to read everything they have on their webpage, we need to go over here and click on this nice United Kingdom flag. And it's all in English. Woohoo! So as you can see here, they have a few different things that you can look at. and see what they're about. They'll show you different screenshots. They can show you a demo here. We're going to be going to download, and there's also, I just want to show you the community link, which has documentation, which, while not completely thorough, it will help you point you to the right direction. So I would definitely take a glance at this. Down the road, I'm going to be going over the actual installation part with it, with everything you need to know up front, so you don't need to do documentation now, but it's there for when you need it. Or you can go the more professional route and click the professional services. So we're going to click download, and we're going to go to the OCS Inventory NG server. Alright, so we have the Inventory NG Management Server 2.1. The latest one out is 2.1.1. I don't think they changed it, but when we install it, it should show the .1. As you can see, for the management server, there's two listed. There's the management server for Unix and Linux, like I mentioned, and there's the one for Windows. We're going to be downloading the one for Windows. Now down here, which I'll be covering over in another tutorial down the road, is the virtual machines, which has everything preloaded. Now they're using a slightly older version, which is 2.05, which is from about 2 years ago. And three flavors that of Linux they used in order to do it. They got Ubuntu, CentOS, or Debian. For the work environment, I generally just use CentOS. I mean, you could also use Ubuntu as well. Any of these, whichever your Linux capabilities are more comfortable with, go ahead and download. But for now, we're just going to cover the management server for Windows. So we're going to go ahead and click on this. Alright, as I said in my slide, they're going to ask you for your registration. Very basic. You don't need to fill all this part out. The only thing you need to do is provide them an email address. So we're going to unclick this. We're going to provide them that email address they want. And then we're going to click download. Alright, so now we're back to the registration page, but as you see, there's different links now. You're going to want to do two things. You're going to want to download the NG server for Windows, and even if we're not covering it in this presentation of this is how I do it, you're going to want to download at least the Windows agent. So we're going to go ahead and do the management server first. Go ahead and save the file. And I've always said, you always know where your file is being downloaded to, because it's really embarrassing when you download something and you can't find it. It's frustrating. Alright, as you can see, we are done downloading the management server. Now we're going to download one of the agents. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and download the Windows. We will cover this in the very next segment of my series on OCS Inventory NG. As you can see below, there's also the ones for Linux /Linux and all its, Linux /Unix and all its different variations. Your Mac OS and even for the Android. So let's go ahead and download the agent for Windows. And let's go ahead and save the file. Alright, now that we are completed the download process, we're going to go on to the desktop now and install our OCS Inventory Management Server for Windows. Alright, we are now back on our desktop, and we are going to go ahead and install the OCS Inventory Management Server for Windows. As you can see, I'm using a Windows Server 2003 R2 virtual machine, which will do a job just fine. You can use 2003, 2008, 2008 R2, 2012, 2012 R2. You can use Windows 8, 8.1, It will install on basically everything. I believe this will also install on Windows 2000. Haven't verified this yet, but I'm pretty darn sure it will install on Windows 2000. Which really is not a good recommendation to do, but I guess if you're stuck somewhere and you need an operating system, there you go. So I'm going to go to my inventory folders. I've downloaded the different versions. This is the very first version I used 4 years ago. And then the 205 and the 211. And then I will also go over upgrading management servers from the current version series, like in this case 2X. But let's go ahead to 211, which is our most current, and we're going to install that management server. There is the management server executable. Go ahead, we're going to open it up, hit run. It is now unpacking. Alright, we're going to hit OK. You get this nice little setup warning, letting you know that if you're doing an upgrade to an existing OCS inventory management server, you must keep the existing directory of that. And it only supports its XAMPP server. Alright, now we're on to our usual setup wizard. We'll hit next. And yes, even though it's free, guess what? You still need to accept the free license for it. Hit next. Alright, it's going to install everything onto this AMP folder, which is located on the C drive. Don't have to use the C drive. If you want to use another drive, be your guest. But C drive generally does the job. Go ahead and hit next. Alright, since this is a fresh installation, you're going to want to use the full. If you're doing, say, an upgrade, you want to do like a minimal, and then you want to check the OCS inventory. This will just update the management server itself and not the web server end of it. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and go back to full. We're going to go ahead and install everything. And then it's asking you, do you want to put the startup folder here? Just say yes, then click and install. Now for its database, this uses a MySQL database, which is also being installed as well, which of course is free. Alright, now it's showing you this window right here, this nice little DOS window. Very simple. All you have to do is press your spacebar key and it goes on. Okay, then you press the spacebar key again. Now what's going to probably happen next is going to come out with an error message. Yep, here it is. But guess what? It still works. So you can just click OK and move on. Alright, what you want to do here is you're going to click Finish and you're going to leave this box checked. We're going to go ahead and click Finish. And as you can see, this nice French-speaking page comes up. Like with the web page that we got the download from, you'll go over here, it says English if you're English, and you click English, and guess what? You can now read it. So it's going through and telling you, hey, these different things are unsecure. We're going to go over that in a little bit, because if you're going to be using OCS in a production environment that has internet contact or internet connection service, you're going to want to secure these holes. So for right now though, I just want you to make a bookmark with whatever version of web browser you're using. In my case, I'm using Firefox, so you're going to bookmark this page. And then you want to go ahead and click Done. Alright, and then we are going to go ahead and exit out. Alright, so now you see that there's a nice little icon here for OCS inventory. There's also a start menu folder as well. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to click on this. Alright, as you can see, this startup page has come up. There's a few things that we'll need to do first in order to make things happy. So we're going to go ahead where it says MySQL login. We're going to type in root. Leave the password blank. Where it says OCS web, you can leave that alone. And where it says MySQL hostname, you're going to put local host. Click send. Alright. So now you got this page. It started the database up. So it is now happy. You can go ahead, you can click out of this. You're going to exit your browser. And we're going to click on the icon again. This time you should see a login page. Okay, as you see, version 2.1.1. We are going to go ahead and log in. It's going to be admin for the username and admin for the password. That is the default. That can all be changed. And we're going to go ahead and never remember this. Alright, so now you see the security alert. The security alert doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It's just letting you know that there's security holes that need to be plugged up. Now you have two options. Option one is you can go ahead and ignore this, and I will go in and show you how to get this to go away. Now this option I only recommend you do is if you're in a closed environment, you have no connection to the internet, and that, you know, it's just going to be you and the different people you work with, then yeah, just leave it like this. Or even if you're just testing this out, you can leave it like this. However, you put this in production, most productions I know of that aren't, say, like in a closed area, will have internet connection. So you're going to probably want to address these issues. So that's option 2. Alright, so let's go into option 1 real quick. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're going to click on this icon called users. And then we're going to go to administrator profiles. Click on profile. And you can see there's 3 types of profiles. There's your administrator, local administrator, super administrator, and there's teledeploy requesters. I have no idea what that's for, but we're going to be choosing super administrators. So once you get this super administrators, you're going to go to rights to manage and click. Alright, there's different options you can do here, but the one option you want, if you don't want to see those errors anymore or not have to worry about them, is see warning messages of GUI. Go to the drop box, click no. And then at the bottom, you click the green check mark. and the profile is updated. Now to see that this go away very simply, you just log off or log out, click back to the login screen, type in your admin password, and voila, the messages are now gone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn them back on, because I'm going to show you how to properly plug them up so you can safely put this on the internet with a reasonable amount of safety when trying to contact your OCS inventory server from outside your network. So we'll just do the reverse of what we just did. Turn this back to yes. And then we'll click the check mark here, and then we're showing it's updated. So now what we're going to do is, again, we'll log off. Alright, so now let's go back into the OCS management server. We'll just go ahead and click on the local icon on the desktop. And as you can see, we're still on the default admin. And our security alerts are now back. So now let's go ahead and properly secure the OCS management server. We'll start off by changing the admin password. So we're going to go ahead and click here. And we're going to give it the super top secret password called password1. Now in production, I definitely recommend you not use this password, but since this is just a lab, it's okay to do it for now. Alright, let's go ahead, and we've updated our data. Let's go ahead and see if we can update it. And as you can see, the default admin password security alert is now gone. Alright, but the next alert, this is actually fairly simple. We're going to go ahead and get rid of the install.php exists in your installation directory. Now this is located under your C drive. Go to the XAMPP, and from there you're going to go to htdocs, OCS reports, and you see this file right here, install.php. You'll go ahead and just delete that file. Click yes, and it's gone. We will now exit out of that. We'll go ahead and refresh the page, and that is now gone. Alright, so as you can see, we only have the one security alert left. So what we need to do is change the database OCS web database user from its default password. But before we can do that, we need to change the SQL root password. And that's where the security settings will be coming in. We're going to need to make some changes there, as I mentioned previously, before we can go on to the next step. So we go back to that link I told you to save. And as you see, it lets you right on in. So when it comes up, it's going to warn you about these 4 unsafe conditions. 3 of the 4 we're going to take care of. The 4th one, where it says PHP is not running in safe mode, is not recommended to run in safe mode because things tend to break, and this is recommended by the OCS-NG documentation website itself, so it's coming from the source. We will leave that alone. However, we will take care of the other 3 while changing the SQL root password. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this link right here where it says localhost security xapsecurity.php. Click on that. Now, right now the root password is blank, so we're going to give it the super cool password of, you guessed it, password 1, because we're in a lab environment. And then we're going to hit password changing. Okay. So the root password was successfully changed. Wonderful. Alright, let's go ahead and take care of the AMP directory protection for the website, for the security website, so no one can just casually go on in like they've been doing. So we're going to go to the user, we're going to create a user called OCS admin. OCS admin. Then we're going to hit the next word. For the password, we're going to put, yes, our favorite password, which is password 1. And then we're going to make the AMP directory safe. Alright, so it looks like everything's been changed. Now to test to make sure it works, we're going to go back to our bookmark, hit the security for the AMP direction, and we're going to go ahead and put in the new user OCS admin and password 1. And we are in. Now if you look at the screen on your right, you can see, like I said earlier, the first 3 things are now secure, while the PHP is not running in safe mode is not. Like I said, again, do not worry about this. If we put it in safe mode, it has been known to break. This is per the OCS documentation. If you want to put it in safe mode, please do so. Just realize there may be some repercussions of that. Alright, so now that we've done that, which also included us changing the root password, so then we can now go into MySQL, where the default database, which is OCS Web, and change that user, OCS, its password, so we can then get rid of the security alert in the management server console. So now we're going to go ahead and go back to our desktop. Alright, so now we're back on the desktop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and hit our start button. We got a couple ways we can get to the command prompt. We can either go run and type CMD, okay, or you can go up to where it says programs, accessories, and then command prompt. Now with later versions of Windows, like Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, they usually have a command prompt with administrative privileges. With those, you want to definitely make sure you click on that, because even though you're logged in as admin, with some of the newer security settings Microsoft has in place, you will need that in order for the commands we're going to be doing to make sure that we can change the different root passwords and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and just click command prompt. Alright, so our box is open. I'm going to make it possible so everybody can see what I'm typing. Alright, so now first thing we got to do is get into the MySQL directory, which is, in this case, going to be in this directory right here. So we're going to go cd c:\\\examp. Now if you just decide to install it in a different directory with the initial install, it'll be drive and then what I'm typing out now to where you want to install, or if you put it in a different drive, a different folder, make sure it's the drive, that folder, and then examp MySQL bin, and then we will hit enter. Alright, so now we're going to go into a MySQL prompt. If I can spell it right. We're going to use our root, and remember we changed the root password earlier, so we should be good to go as far as being able to use it. It'll be tac u root space, of course, and then tac p. So this is the first line you want to put in, and then you'll hit enter. And it's going to ask you for the password, which is, of course, our ever super secret safe password, password 1. And just to reiterate, this is a lab, that's why I'm using this password, but I definitely would not use it in a production environment. So we can see we are in our MySQL. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the OCS password on the OCS web database. In order to do that, we're going to type in this MySQL narrative. Now I'm cheating here a little bit. I went ahead and copied and pasted this in order to make life easier for everybody so we didn't have to wait around. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change using the root administrative privileges in MySQL, I'm going to take our OCS account where it says OCS at local.host, which you'll have to change. It's going to be different. And then where it says password 1, it'll just say my past or something like that. You need to make sure that you do a narrative just like this, and then you're going to hit enter. Alright, so now we have completed changing the password, so we're going to hit exit. Now the very last thing we have to do, and we'll go ahead and close our box, we'll once again go into our Windows Explorer. We're going to go back into the XAMPP. We'll go back into the htdocs. Go into the OCS reports, and you're going to see this file right here, dbconfig.inc.php. We're going to have to change one slight thing in this. Now there's no association with it, so what you're going to have to do is you'll click on open, or depending on what version of Windows you're using, it'll say open with. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to select a program from a list, and then we will click OK. Alright, we're going to go ahead and use Notepad, and we're going to leave this clicked to always use the selected program. This will not harm the file. And you can see right here there's a bunch of entries. What you're going to want to do is you're going to change the password where it says password underscore base, and you see OCS in the colons. Make that to match what you just changed in your OCS password for MySQL. So we're going to type capital PASSWORD1, and remember it's case sensitive. Make sure the colons are there. And we will go ahead and save and then exit. Nothing else needs to be changed as long as you used OCS. Now another thing that OCS inventory recommends you do is actually create another user account and use that to match OCS web. If you want to do that, that's fine. Today though, we're just going to do it the easiest way. Alright, now we're going to go back into our management server. And if we did everything correctly, there should be no more security alerts. I'll go ahead and hit the send button. And as you can see, they are all gone. So this pretty much covers what about the installation. There's one thing extra I am going to show you, and that's how to connect to your management server from another computer with another web browser. Alright, we're back on another computer, or I should say another virtual machine. I know that Windows XP is now end of life, but you know what? It's still a very usable product for lab testing, and that's what I'm going to do. And it's also very low on resources, so I can do more. Now we're going to move on to what I was telling you earlier. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open our web browser, which is not Internet Explorer, due to security reasons. And remember early on when I told you in the PowerPoint slides about make sure there's a static IP on your OCS server? That is the reason why, because if you're not running any form of DNS, if this is say a very, very small work group or your house, or you're not running an Active Directory DNS or any DNS server, then you will need to type in your IP address in order to get to the management server from another computer. Or if you do have say you do have DNS, you'll still need an IP address. And as you can see, guess what? We are now at our management server. We'll go ahead and log in real quick. See if everything is hunky-dory. We're not going to remember the password right now, so I'll never remember this for this site. And there we go. Alright, now let's say, okay, I don't want to keep typing this IP address in all the time. You want to type in the fully qualified name. Well, you can actually do that. You can type in, say, so for whatever computer you're actually in your local network, you can type in that computer's name / OCS reports, and I'll show you how easy it is to do that. So we're going to go ahead and open up our Windows Explorers. Alright, we're going to go to our Windows directory. List that out. We're going to hit the System32 folder, which is this one right here. And then finally we're going to hit the drivers folder. Okay, so now we're going to go into one other folder, the ETC folder. So you want to follow this path in order to get to it. So now we are, as you can see, there's 5 different files. We're going to change this one host. We're going to hit open. And like I showed you previously with the one file for the OCS server, we're going to use Notepad to edit it. We're going to hit OK. Alright. This is sort of like the manual built-in DNS that every computer has. Doesn't matter if it's Windows or Linux, there's something in there that will work in order to let that computer know eventually, hey, this is where this computer is. And if you do not have a DNS service running on your network, this is how you'll do it. So like for instance, you can see the pound signs have commented out the different things here. They're just showing you as an example. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and type in our OCS server. So we'll give it the IP address of our OCS server. And then over here we're going to let it know what it answers up to. So we'll type Y2K3 SP2 R2, which is what I'm currently calling that particular server. You type whatever, it could be, change it to OCS reports or whatnot, but that's what it will answer up as far as looking for the computer. And if you want to, you can even put a little comment. Got to put the pound sign though. If you don't do that, it will not. Your DNS will not work. And just put OCS management server. And then you're going to hit save. So what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and close this. Reopen our browser, which of course you don't want to use Internet Explorer. Use Firefox or Chrome. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and type in our web address again. Now if you're on an Active Directory domain, then you would have to add the computer name .whatever.com, but in this case we're not Going that far, we just need the name of the computer. So we're going to type in Y2K3 SP2 R2 / this part doesn't change because as you can see we're not putting in the RIP address, and OCS reports, and then hit enter, and voila, we are now on our management server. And we'll go ahead and log in with our password 1. Still not to remember, never remember the password, and here we go, we're in. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for joining me here on This Is How I Do It. I hope you learned a lot, and the very next episode we are going to be going over how to install the agent on your client computers so it will start reporting to your management server. And also I will also be going over an overview of how a lot of the different things work on your OCS management server as well. So thanks again, and if you like, click that like button, and if you really like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you back soon.